Reports. The U.S. Navy is moving the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier to the Korean Peninsula, where it will conduct dual-carrier training exercises with the USS Carl Vinson amid heightened tensions in the region, two defense officials told CNN. The move comes just days after North Korea demonstrated a significant leap forward in their missile program after launching a projectile that achieved successful controlled re-entry into the Earth's lower atmosphere rather than falling back to the surface. According to a preliminary U.S. intelligence analysis, two U.S. officials tell CNN, after completing a maintenance period and sea trials in Yokosuka, Japan, the USS Ronald Reagan departed for the Korean Peninsula on Tuesday, according to the Navy. Coming out of a long in-port maintenance period, we have to ensure that Ronald Reagan and the remainder of the strike group are integrated properly as we move forward, Rear Admiral Charles Williams said in a press release. Once it arrives in the region, the carrier will conduct a variety of training exercises but primarily focus on certifying its ability to safely launch and recover aircraft, the service said. The 1.092-foot Reagan carries a crew of 4,539 and is equipped with roughly 60 aircraft. According to the Navy, it was commissioned in 2003 and cost about $8.5 billion. The USS Carl Vinson arrived at the Korean Peninsula late last month as a show of force in advance of a long-anticipated sixth nuclear test from the North Korean government. While Pyongyang has yet to carry out that nuclear test, it did launch a NOTS-17 missile that achieved an altitude of more than 1,000 miles on Sunday, according to the North Koreans, by far their longest reach yet in their missile test program. Defense officials would not comment on how long the U.S. plans to operate two carriers near North Korea, but ultimately the Reagan is expected to replace the Vinson in the region once its deployment ends. Tensions have rapidly escalated in the highly volatile region since President Donald Trump declared in early April he would be prepared to act unilaterally against Pyongyang, and North Korea has engaged in a series of military drills and test launches. While North Korea's arsenal of missiles is becoming clearer, there is less certainty about how developed its nuclear program is. To actually deliver such a missile, Pyongyang would have to have advanced technology in both miniaturizing its nuclear weapons as well as in protecting a nuclear warhead from being destroyed upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
I don't know why I was there. I was just imprisoned without being given a single reason.
Imprisoned along with her parents and 4 children who were deemed guilty by association. Her parents died of malnutrition in Yodok camp. Her 8-year-old son slipped and drowned in a river there.
When my mother died, she just said, "My dear daughter, in this difficult time, how could you live with little young children? I grew up in a noble life, but since I entered into Yodok camp, I couldn't even feed my children."
Kim was a dancer and star student of the famous Korean dancer Choi Seung-hee, who had a dance school and an official position in North Korea's administration. Choi was disappeared in 1967 and died 2 years later. The circumstances unknown. A year after her death. As a teenager, Kim started dancing for the Korean People's Army Performance Troupe and performed directly for the Supreme Leader Kim Il-sung. It was a job she held for 13 years. She quit when Choi disappeared.
Before you were arrested, were you fond of your country and its leader?
I thought he was the greatest leader when I was in North Korea. If I weren't detained in Yodok camp, I don't think I would be here in South Korea. I had a very luxurious life in Pyongyang before I was detained.
Kim's life and family were elite, and so were her friends. She went to school with Sung Ye-rim, one of North Korea's first big movie stars who caught the eye of the Supreme Leader's son and future leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il.
They loved each other. In 1969, Sung Ye-rim told me that she was going to marry Kim Jong-il. I knew that fact, and that is a crime.
The relationship was scandalous because Sung Ye-rim was married with a child when they met. Kim Jong-il reportedly forced her husband to divorce her. He went to great lengths to keep the relationship a secret from everyone, including his father, Supreme Leader Kim Il-sung. It's the reason Kim and her family were locked away in Yoreok prison camp, but she didn't find that out until years after her release.
I don't know why I'm here. Please let me go. Please set me free.
And she would never know what happened to her husband.
My husband disappeared to the most mysterious prison camp. I don't know where it is, and I don't know where he is to this day.
Kim tells me in Yoreok camp they would wake at 3:30 in the morning and do hard labor from 4:30 till dark. The guards would only give them corn and salt to eat. Prisoners would catch snakes, rats, and pigeons and eat them right away, raw, to avoid being caught by the guards. But doing that often made them sick.
I cannot fully explain life in Yoreok camp. Yoreok camp is the place where my sorrow and blood and tears are. I just buried my parents with straw when they died of malnutrition. I ate anything I could, grass, worms, and if something flew by, we would try to catch and eat it.
According to human rights groups, between 20 to 50,000 prisoners are kept in Yoreok camp at a time. Many suffer and die from malnutrition. Some are publicly executed for trying to escape or steal food. The guards reportedly rape women prisoners, and since they are not allowed to be pregnant in camp, they are either executed or forced to have abortions. After international pressure from the United Nations in 2014, Yoreok prison camp was reportedly dismantled. But Amnesty International claims to have satellite images from 2016 that show the hard labor prison camp is still operating. According to North Korea, Yoreok prison camp and others never existed, and the people who defect and speak out, like Kim Young-sun, are criminals and liars who are paid to speak. The testimonies of some North Korean defectors have proved to be exaggerated, fueled by cash payments for interviews and the media's thirst for shocking stories. But we have not paid Kim Young-sun for her story, and the details of her life have been corroborated by multiple sources.
The world should know my pain.
After 9 years in prison, Kim found favor with an official who was a friend of her brother's, a North Korean war hero. She was granted amnesty from Yoreok and sent to work at a mine doing hard labor for 3 more years. For years after her release, she tells me she was still under surveillance. And in 1989, a national security agent summoned her and warned her that talking about Kim Jong-il's mistress, her friend Sun Yerim, and the son the two had together would put her back in prison.
It was at that time I realized I had been detained because of that fact, because I knew Kim Jong-il's personal life. My heart goes pitter-patter.
She knew then she would never be safe.
I decided in my mind to escape. I didn't know how I could leave and get to South Korea, so I stayed and planned for 12 years.
By 2001, she had acquired fake papers, bribed an officer, and crossed over Tumen River into China, alone and in winter.
What were your emotions when you first crossed over the water and were out of North Korea for good?
When I crossed the border, it was February, which means it was frozen and there was snow. With each step I took, the snow crunched and my hair stood on edge.
She stayed and worked as a maid in China, saving up money for 2 years. Then with fake papers, traveled through Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand to get to South Korea.
Getting on that Asiana airplane, knowing I was going to South Korea, I could never forget that day.
14 years later, the once elite dancer lives in a tiny apartment in Seoul, her kitchen, living room, and bedroom all together.
I don't have any valuable things, but now my mind is free, and for that, I am thankful.
And with her free mind, she's shared her story all over the world. The awards, credentials, and photographs she proudly displays in her closet. Her hope that one day the prison camps will close.
I just appeal with my tears to the world. Please help North Korea's citizens.
Citizens like her only daughter.